Welcome to my 2024 Elk Bow Build. I'm actually going to be upgrading my RX-7. This is honestly one of my favorite bows of all time. Shot this for the last couple years and I've had some great success with it. I've killed multiple elk and mule deer and just had amazing luck with it. I've loved to shoot it. It's been a dream to shoot, and I am upgrading it for the 2024 Hoyt RX-8. So as you can see, this one is maybe a little bit more colorful than the old one I had with the old colors, but going to be taking this RX-8 setup and almost mirroring it with my RX-7 setup. So I'll be shooting a very similar rest and very similar setup. Really the differences are going to be that this bow I was shooting at 70 pounds with a 340 spine Easton axis that totaled at about 460 grains. This particular bow here got it in 80-pound limbs, and I'm going to back it off just a little bit and shoot it probably around that 75, 76 pounds, at least to start. I'll see what the arrow's like, but I'll be using the 300 spine 5mm Easton axis with 50 grains of brass, cut 27.5 inches, which should come out to right around 500 grains with my lighted nocks. So quite honestly, the speeds between these two bows, even though this one will be a heavier poundage, it should shoot about the same speed as my old RX-7 because my new arrows, or the 300 spine arrows, will be 500 grains, where these old arrows were about 460 grains. So should get about the same speeds. My sight should be about the same for the pin gapping, so it should be almost exactly what I'm used to, but with just a little bit of an upgrade with the new bow, and can't wait to get it set up and shoot it. So let's go ahead and get started with this rig and go from there. This is going to be strictly a hunting bow setup for me, not a target bow setup. I do want to get the most accuracy out of it I can and the most forgiveness out of it that I can, but ultimately what I'm going to do is take this bow from out of the box to broadhead tuned and show you the very basic steps to follow along to do it yourself as well. So start out with the nocking point. We're always going to do this first on a brand new bow. If you've seen our bow builds before, you've seen this. We're just lining it up with the center of the burger buttonhole. I'm going to tie that nock set in just slightly above 90 degrees on the tool. So we'll go ahead and do that now. I prefer these nock sets over just tying a D-loop on there, just because if the D-loop were to break or the serving were to slide on the string, anything like that, these nock sets are not going to move. They're always going to be in the same place. So if I were to need to replace a D-loop throughout season or anything like that, I can just cut it off, tie a new one on, and know that it's not going to change my point of impact at all. Okay, that is about the perfect length for me. That's exactly what I'm looking for right there. So that's a great starting point. From here, we can go ahead and put it onto the draw board and check cam sync. No matter what kind of setup you're doing, any kind of binary cam bow or hybrid cam bow or any bow with two cam stops that come around, touch the cable, touch the limb, you've got to synchronize the cams. They've got to move together and you've got to double check it. I actually was just shooting my other bow, and even after I all set it up and everything, had the cam synced, I had shot it, the strings had stretched a little bit, threw it on the draw board, checked it, there was a little gap in the cam, meaning that one cam was fast, one cam was slow, and that can make all the difference in the world for accuracy and tuning. So definitely got to get this part right. Don't skip this step. If you don't have a bow press to be able to adjust it, definitely work with your bow shop to do it. So if you look right here on this bottom cam, the stop right there is touching the cable. It's just very slightly touching. And then if you look on this top cam here, you can kind of see that there's a gap in there that's at least 1/8 of an inch. That's quite a bit of a gap. So we're going to actually take this down, we'll put it in the press, and we're going to give it a full twist in that bottom cam to basically slow that bottom cam down to match this top cam so that they can rotate together and be in sync with each other. So let's go ahead and move to the press. Okay, again, the gap was in our top cam. So I'm going to go to this bottom cam, take the main cable off right here, and I'm going to put a full twist into it. So this is a clockwise to tighten string, so 1/2, 1. Go ahead and clip this back on. Okay, let's throw it back in the drawboard. So now if you look, you can see there's just a teeny tiny gap right there. That's what I'm going to use to measure, because if I look at the bottom cam here too, it's just barely touching, it looks like. Let me back it off just a touch. Okay. So yeah, if I look at that, there's both a gap in the top and the bottom, just exactly the same. So these cams are in sync. The draw length's coming out to 29 1/8, 29 1/4, right in there. I'll do some tinkering with that, but that's close enough now to start. Actually, what I need to do is I like to shoot 80% let off. I'm planning on continuing to shoot 80% let off with this setup. So let's swap those to 80%, from 85 to 80%. Throw it back on the drawboard just to double check things. It should be the same, but just to double check things. And then we'll move into the next step. There's the hard and the extra hard setting. I've just got it on the hard setting. It's whatever the letter that is facing the bow, that's the setting that it is. Basically what you can do to switch it is swap this from bottom cam to top to bottom. And when this stop comes around and touches the cable right here, when this is closer to the axle of the bow, it's going to hit that cable at a lower position if you look right here. And if I press this with my thumb, it's really stiff. But if I come out here and I press, there's a lot more give with it. So everybody's kind of got their own personal preferences with what they like as far as how hard the back wall is. I don't like too squishy, but I don't like a super hard back wall. I shot limb stop bows for a number of years. Shot them great, still like them. But I prefer just having that little bit of give. I feel like with different execution methods, it gives me a little bit of forgiveness with the pin float and when the shot breaks. So you just have to determine what you like best. Just like my RX-7, I'm going to be running the QAD Integrate MX. This is the MX2, basically the same rest as before with just a few upgrades on it. Had great luck hunting with it, but never had an issue whatsoever with the cord or anything else, nothing breaking, anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and we'll put it on the bow. The great thing about this is the Hoyt version, QAD Integrate MX2 rest. And so basically what we've found is they've got it set up so that we really shouldn't have to do a whole lot of rest adjustment as long as we've got the cams shimmed in the right place and the cams synced together. So we'll obviously do some shooting and tuning and see, but usually we don't have to make a ton of adjustment to it. Okay, so I just attached that on with the arrow right on the notch right there. It's just centered with the center of the burger button hole, which is how I tied the D-loop on, so should be perfect. Let's go ahead, we'll just slip this rest cord down into this downward cable, so we'll slip it into the press. If you're using a fall-away arrow rest that attaches to the downward cable, I definitely recommend, if you don't have a bow press, take it to a bow shop, have them put it in a press, and put this cord through the cable. The QAD comes with a clamp, and some other rests come with the clamp, but it's going to be a lot more reliable for you if you actually put it through this downward cable. So I highly recommend taking the time to do that. It's going to provide a lot less issues for you when you're in the field. You good to keep rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. So from here, we've got our rest attached. We'll worry about setting the cord and everything later when we go to shoot it, but let's go ahead. We're just going to throw everything on here. So, like I said, we're going to basically mirror the setup from this bow. I'm going to use the same exact sight on this setup. So this is my black gold pure 75. They do not make this side anymore, but it's basically the same model as the Pro model that they make now. It's got micro adjust everything, both vertical windage and pins. If I can get it off here, I'll show you. Okay. So I run it as a 5-pin sight, as you can see, 20 to 60, and then I run my tape so that my bottom pin is my mover sight. So I've got it set at 60 at base with this all the way up on the sight, and I can scroll down to 100. I can even shoot out to 120, 130, whatever it might be. Obviously, I'm not gonna shoot that far when I'm hunting, but have that option to practice that far. So I bought this bracket right here to be able to put on for this inline. Right here, I used to have just the old bracket that it came with and attached it to the sight or to the bow that way, and that worked great, but I really just wanted to cut down on the weight and didn't want this on the side of the bow, especially with the quiver. It just fits so much more streamlined, so that's why I bought it, and it works great. You know, because of this and the integrate rest, I don't have the ability to torque tune because I can't move my rest in or out or the sight in or out, but what I've found is that the rest in the position that it is and the sight in the position that it is, it's very, very close to where I would have it torque tuned anyway with pretty much all of my setups. So no need for a dovetail on this. For me personally, for my hunting bow, I'd rather keep this a little bit lighter, a little bit more sleek, and this is super solid. I'll check this again to make sure it's tight. Okay, that's good. Let's put the felt in the rest before I forget that. This is just a little felt pad here. I'm actually going to form it on here before I peel it apart. This is just to keep your arrow silent when you're drawing back. The good thing about these is they're replaceable. You can, if it wears down, you can absolutely just get a replacement to put over it. Really, what I'd like to see QAD do in the future is, if you've seen on their new MX2 rest, they've got the rubbers on the side to keep it quiet when you draw if that arrow's banging around, right? I think they could integrate that on the bottom of the arrow rest too. I know why they probably don't, because you're definitely going to see wear on that piece if you do. But I think they could put some kind of permanent fixture in the bottom of that could make that arrow silent to draw back, you know, so you don't have to put this felt on or don't have to replace it. But this is on, it's stuck good, as long as your bow's tuned good and this rest is actually falling completely out of the way, which it's not with the cord right now. But as long as that's falling completely out of the way, that should last and give you no issues whatsoever. If you do have any issues with that, what I have done in the past is take like athletic tape, just a little strip of it, and put it over the middle, the top and the bottom on each side. That works great. Keeps it pretty quiet as well. So we'll put the top piece on just so that arrow's not making noise banging against the top. And then we'll move on. I also don't know how much difference that little felt makes at the top there. If it hits the plastic, it's going to hit the plastic. It's probably going to make noise anyway, but they give it to you. I want to put it on. So now I'm going to put the stabilizers on. I think for right now, what I'm going to do is just run the standard bars here with just the light weight. I really want to make this a mobile setup, so I want to try it with just a light weight on these stabilizers. I do like a longer bar though, so I might go back to something a little bit longer, maybe a little bit more weight, but I do want this quick disconnect off of here and my wrist sling. So I'll go ahead and take those off from my RX-7 here. The quick disconnect is just nice because you can take that front stabilizer off really quick if you need to. I've had this thing a long time, but it keeps working, so I keep using it. Okay. See if I can remember how this went on. Something like this, and then back to this, and then over from here. Just like that. I was just looking at the other side. Good place to start. Okay, quick disconnect. I'll just slide it right through the wrist strap there. I do like having a wrist strap on my bow. I just, quite honestly, makes it feel more secure, especially shooting at any kind of a steep angle down. But also, it can make it easier to carry when you're on backpack hunts and carrying it a long ways. And I'll show you here once I get this stabilizer on. Okay, so this makes it easier to carry, or it can if you've got it set at the right length, because when you grab it, you can put your hand through the wrist strap, twist it this way, and then when you rest, your arm against that stabilizer like this wrist strap here kind of holds the bow. So it makes it super easy to carry because I don't actually have to hold it in my fingers. So if you carry your bow all day and you get tired of carrying it around when you're in the mountains chasing elk or antelope or whatever else, wrist strap is a great little reliever for carrying that weight. So we'll go ahead, we'll throw on the rear stabilizer here. We'll just use this quick bracket from Hoyt, super lightweight, small, and does everything we're going to need it to. Okay, just a little quick detach here. I'll screw the other rear stabilizer in. Okay, I think when I do this, I'm going to take this little doinker off just so that it's not there in the front. Short stop. And you know, I might experiment. I like a little bit shorter stabilizer if I'm running it off this bottom. So I might experiment with that a little bit more, but I'm just super used to having it right here beneath the grip. I really like that, like the balance of it, like the ability to throw it over my shoulders like this and grab the stabilizer right here rather than out here just a little bit further. But ultimately, the decision is yours of what you like. You've just got to test it all and figure out what is most comfortable for you. And really, stabilizers are all about accuracy, and even in a hunting setup, that's the reason that we're using them. So by having the stabilizers with weight out away from the bow, it helps slow down that movement just a little bit, gives it a little bit more balance. We don't want it to be too slow a movement because it can be, you know, when it blows off target, it comes back really, really slow. So there's kind of a right balance there. For a hunting setup, you really don't need a whole lot of stabilizer weight. I've definitely preferred it in the past, but I do want to experiment with maybe doing a little bit less weight just to see how I like it. Just because it's going to be a lot lighter to carry this bow around, especially as a carbon bow through the mountains this fall. So, okay, let's go ahead. We'll put on the quiver. Okay, so I'm running the Hoyt quick detach 6-arrow quiver this year. You know, when I first set up my RX-7, I had the 2 attachment removable quiver, and I liked the fact that it was more secure by having the 2 points of attachment. I thought it would be a little bit better for me because it's still removable, so I could take it off to hunt out of a blind or a tree stand, but I wanted something very secure for going in the mountains because I thought it's very likely that I'm going to shoot with my quiver on. What I found is I just didn't personally like it quite as much. Not that it was super heavy, it's just the way that it balanced on this right side of the bow. It definitely made it lean more to that right, and I definitely had to make adjustments to my you know, my rear stabilizer here, and definitely had to make adjustments to the tune when I was shooting with the quiver on. So with this quiver here, it's still detachable and I can still shoot it with it on, and I was a little bit worried about the arrow noise since the arrows aren't held super long with it. But after using it more, I found that I had no issues with it whatsoever. So I'm going to run this as my quiver for my Western bow for 2024. And I think it'll work just fine. Okay, got some adjustments to do here, make it fit a little bit nicer. Tighten this bracket down so it shows me exactly where it's going to be. Okay, so if you look at that, it's maybe cocked out just a little bit like that. I'd rather prefer that than too close to the limb, especially if I'm going to ever shoot with this quiver on the bow. One thing I do want to note too with these arrow grabbers right here, they're obviously adjustable and they can rotate up or down or left or right. And if this here, if your arrows are rotated too far in, when that arrow actually sits in the quiver here, if it's not too far out like this and it's actually twisted more in like that, it could be above your limb, and when you draw back, that limb could hit those arrows. So just be sure that you've got plenty of room here so that those arrows are to the side of your bow. And those yellow fletchings look pretty cool with that yellow string, don't they?
They do look good.
Yeah, this is going to be a more vibrant setup for me, but I think I'm really going to like it. So now that we've got all this stuff on here, I'm not planning to shoot with the quiver on, so I'll just go ahead and set it off to the side for right now. But we are going to put in our peep sight, and then we're about ready to do some shooting. So for the peep sight, very simple process. It's got a brand new string in it, and it's got the middle of the string split right there. So I'm just going to load an arrow in it and draw it back to get a visual of where that peep sight needs to go on the string. With this release here, it's got a safety on it. I can just put it right through the release. It's the Stan Onyx. But then I can draw it back and it should not fire. So I'm just going to give myself a reference with that string split of where the peep should be. Beneath it. Okay. That felt really good. I'm gonna like this setup. Okay, for the peep, I'll be running just a 3/16 black peep sight. That's what I always run. Works super good. I don't need anything fancier than this. It's just a hole I'm looking through to line up my sight. So it's gonna work just fine. We'll go put it in the press, toss it in. Okay, so this is where the string split was. Peep probably needs to be here roughly, just very roughly. It's not going to be exact. We're going to put it in and then adjust it as we need to. So I'm just going to slide this down to the position I wanted it to be in, which is pretty close to right here to start. We'll split that string. It's even. I'll grab my peep. I'll make sure I'm putting it in the right way. If it was like this, I wouldn't be able to see through it, so I got to flip it over. Put it in there. That's good. I'm going to keep this just for the center of the string so I know where it's at. Slide it up just for now, just so that I've always got center in case the peep sight came out or anything like that. We'll start with it right here. Let's let it down. Okay, it's twisting a little bit. I'm just going to put it back in, flip it around. Obviously this string is going to stretch and settle and everything else. Doesn't matter what string it is or what string manufacturer, regardless of what they say, there's always going to be a settle and a stretch. So we're going to have to shoot it before we get that peep twisted back perfectly straight, but for now that's clear enough to see through. So let's take it out, get back to full draw, and see if we're close to where it needs to be. Always knock an arrow when you draw back. I would rather have the bow go off and arrow go into the wall than for the bow to explode into a bunch of pieces because I didn't put an arrow on it and I accidentally fired it. So should not happen, but just this double safety. That's honestly really close. I might move it down just a smidge, but for now, that is good. We'll do some more fine-tuning adjustment on the peep sight and all that because we might have to move the sight, we might have to move the rest, we might have to move all that stuff. So we're definitely not going to do a permanent tie-in on this peep, but we do want to tie it in so that it's not going to fly out of the string when we're shooting it. So really simple for right now. I'm just going to cut off a short piece of the D-loop string right here, and we'll just wrap it around the peep. And this won't be a permanent tie-in by any means. It's just to hold it so that we can shoot it through all this initial setup and tuning process. No, that's not going to hurt your bowstring. I just melted that straight down on top of it just so that the knots don't come undone. So that's going to be good. So I think at this point we are going to take it outside. You saw when I drew back, the rest cord kind of set in the close position, but we're going to take it outside and we are going to put some shots through it. So we'll just fling some arrows. We'll see if the sight's a little bit close at all. And then we're going to shoot some bare shafts and compare them to our flesh. We're just going to skip the paper tuning process Really, we don't find that to be super helpful because we do so many other additional tuning steps after the fact. But if we can get the bare shafts to fly with the fletched arrows, we know our broadheads are going to fly with our field points, and we know the bow is going to be more tuned that way than just a clean hole through paper. So we're going to start there. From there, we can shim the cams, make all the adjustments we need to, and go from there. Of course, we'll do lots more tuning beyond that, but let's get started there. Again, I'm going to be shooting 300 spine arrows out of this bow. So these are the 300 spine 5mm Easton axis. They're going to come in heavier than the other arrows that I shoot, the 340s. These are going to weigh right at about 500 grains total. So hopefully it shoots about the same speed as my other bow and other setup, but is going to carry a lot more kinetic energy. I think the kinetic energy on my RX-7 at 70 pounds was roughly 87 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. This should be closer to around 95 or so if I'm shooting that 75, 76 pounds. So we'll shoot a few arrows here and see how they land. That was awesome. Ooh, that's not good. Okay, I'm definitely seeing the arrow not coming out straight. So I'm gonna shoot some bare shafts and I'm gonna see where they land. Not even gonna take a guess of where they go, but we'll see where they go. And then we're probably gonna have to shim the cams to adjust, but let's see what they look like. Way to the right. I don't even need to shoot the second one because I know it's going to go to the right like that. So just looking at it, bare shaft to the right, that is going to mean that we're going to have a left tear on paper, which is going to mean we're going to need to shim these cams to the left. So if I look at this, if I look at the top cam right off, I can see I've already got the thick spacer on the left, thin spacer on the right. I think if I just swapped it, it's probably not going to be enough of an adjustment. So I'm probably going to need to use the other spacers to still put the thicker side on the right and the thinner side on the left. So let's go ahead, we'll pull our arrows and then we'll head to the press and we'll swap out those spacers to shift that top cam to the left. Okay, let's take it back outside, shoot those bare shafts again, see what we changed. Okay, we'll shoot bare shaft here. Significant difference. Still looks a little bit to the right. Let's shoot another one here. Okay, let's go take a look. So pretty significant difference from the first group that we shot. That first group, fletchings were hitting about the same on the left side of the dot, and that bare shaft was way over here. So to recap, we shifted this top cam to the left by moving the spacers. We didn't just move the spacers, but we changed out the spacers so that we've got an even thicker one on the right side of the cam, the thin one on the left side of the cam. That shifted that cam to the left. It brought those bare shafts a lot closer, but not quite close enough. So from here, okay, what we could do is we could go to the even thicker spacer on the right side and the thinnest spacer on the left. But if we look at the bottom cam right here, we can see that we've got the thicker spacer on the left-hand side, the thinner spacer on the right side. It's not an issue if the bare shafts are flying with our fletched arrow, but instead of changing the top again, we're gonna go to the bottom cam and we're just gonna swap those spacers and see if that helps bring it over at all. So back to the press. bottom cam to the left. Let's shoot again. I think I'm good to screw on broadheads, and we'll compare our broadheads to where our field points land, because ultimately I want my broadheads to fly with my field points. And the more forgiving a flight I can get from them, the more accurate I'll be, and the better bow hunter I'll be. I was also shooting just a touch low, so let's lower it down a little too. Alright, let's shoot a few field points, excuse me, first, and then we'll shoot the broadheads. That felt pretty good. Shoot another field point. Now we've got the big behemoth slick trick, grizz trick broadhead. If these things can fly on with our field points, any broadhead's gonna fly straight with this setup. So we're just gonna aim for that middle dot there and see where it impacts. To the left. Okay, let's shoot that bottom right dot. Also left. Let's go take a look. The wind's also not helping any. It's also coming from the right to the left. We'll take a look. These are our fletched arrows with the field points. We've got some left-right variances. That was just me, obviously, but we've got some wind today. If you are shooting your broadheads, I recommend doing this on a day where there is no wind so that there is no variables. But we're both getting consistent placement with our broadheads, consistently left, so that would be impacting about right here compared to the field point arrows. So what we're going to have to do is bump our rest to the left towards the broadheads just a little bit. Since we're so close to center, that should be the correct adjustment for the movement that we need to make. But let's go ahead and do it. We'll slide that rest over and shoot again, compare them with our field points. No, really, it doesn't matter where the field points hit. We just want the broadheads compared to the field point arrows. So it doesn't matter if we hit the dot or not, we just want the consistency. I must have guessed right, moving my sight. Okay. On to the behemoth broadheads. I'll shoot the middle target for this one. That was me. Let me shoot again. There we go. That's a lot better. Let's go ahead and shoot them again. I think we might need to make a little bit more adjustment. So here's another tuning tip for you. When you are shooting and you're going off of arrows, it's always very important that you go off of averages and definitely take out any bad shots. This was definitely a bad shot on my behalf. A gust of wind came, blew me off target. I forced a shot, and it wasn't a good shot. I knew it wasn't gonna land in the middle, even if these broadheads were flying on with this. If I compare these field point arrows right here with this broadhead arrow, I feel like this is a better representation of it. The broadhead is still just slightly left of where these field points are here at 30 yards, and maybe just a little bit high. I'm not going to make a vertical adjustment just based off of one arrow like that, but I do still think that it is flying a little bit left. So I'm just going to adjust that rest a little bit over left. I did 15 clicks the first time. I'll probably do half that, do 7 or 8, and then we'll shoot them again and see where they land. Ultimately, we're very, very close, but we're going to see if we can get it even better yet. It's too windy. Looks really good. Okay, let's go take a peek. These were our fletched field point arrows hitting in the dot here. This was the first broadhead shot, which hit exactly with the field point. This one hit a little low left. I think that arrow's kind of been maybe a little bit consistently low left. I think a lot of this again goes back to the fixed broadhead being so big and my fletchings not being quite as big. There's a lot more factors to broadhead flight than just the bow tune itself, okay? But quite honestly, this is really, really good right here. There's a lot more tuning I'm gonna do with this, but this is a great starting point knowing that I can put on any broadhead smaller than this. Quite honestly, with this bow, I'm mainly going to be using mechanicals. So knowing that these big broadheads are going to be flying right on, those mechanicals should fly right with my field points. Like I said, I'll definitely do some additional tuning beyond this in the weeks and months to come, leading up to our final trip date going into the Elk Woods. But this is a great starting point right here, right now. So let's go back into the shop. We'll tie up some loose ends and go from there. Okay, so at this point we've got everything pretty close to where we want it. Like I said, we're still going to do some minor adjustments with some different tunings and things, but we're very, very close to how we want it to be. So ultimately we can tie in our rest cord here, and I did do a few additional shooting to test the peep sight to make sure it's close to where I want it to be, so we'll go ahead and tie that in as well. With the rest cord here, it's very, very simple. You know, it's set in the position that I want it to be. I'm just going to make a mark on the back side right here with this gold Sharpie, and then I can pull this through. I'll just tie an overhand knot right there, line it up right with that edge of the gold, just like that. Okay, and then I can cut this excess here. I won't need it. And then I can burn this down so it doesn't come loose. And pull it through, and that rest cord is set. So simple as that. We'll go ahead, we'll move on to the peep sight right here. So with this bright yellow string, I'm actually going to take a black marker. I'm going to fill in this yellow with black so I'm not getting glare from that high fluorescent color. And again, this is all a visual thing. This is just so that I'm not getting the glare from the string when I'm at full draw, when the sun's hitting it, or different lighting situations. You don't have to do this. This is just my own personal preference. Anytime I don't have a black string, I usually like to do this. So from here, we'll go ahead and we'll cut out our old tie. Just right up against the peep sight. Okay, that's good. When we do this, we want to make sure we're not moving that peep sight. Okay, we'll take about that long of BCY 0.018 power grip. That's what I like to use to tie in the peeps. Pull it to the edge of the table here so it's easy to work. And we'll go ahead and lock this peep side in so that it does not have an opportunity to move. It's important, you don't want to do this until you are sure your peep sight is exactly where you want it. And peep height is a very big factor when it comes to accuracy for you as the shooter. So make sure you get this perfect. Don't just assume that it's good because you look through it and it feels comfortable. Try adjusting it up or down and see if it makes a big difference for you, if you like it or if you don't like it. You'll definitely notice one way or another that will be better off. And that peep sight is not going anywhere. That is locked in super well, and I won't have to worry about that coming loose or moving when I'm backpacking into the mountains on a hunt. Okay. After tying that, it looks like it might be sitting in there a little bit crooked, so I'll probably have to throw it in the press, give it a little bit of a twist. So let's just do that real quick. Okay, peep is twisted this way, so we'll be very careful. We'll take off the bottom string, pull this out, pull the string all the way straight, just like that. We're going to give it just a half a twist back to the left. That way that twist goes through the entire length of the string, and then we can wrap it back around our cam right here. Set it up. That looks pretty good. I'll just rotate the D-loop knots to match right in line with the peep right here. That looks pretty good. Obviously I'll have to shoot it a lot more and get it set up exactly how I want it to be. So ultimately, this is my elk hunting setup for the 2024 season. Micah and I both have Montana elk tags. We're very, very excited to hit the mountains and chase the bugles again. This is far from the perfect setup. There's lots of little tinkering and little tuning methods that I'm going to do to this, but this is a great, great starting point. You know, if you guys are looking for a how-to on how to set up your own bow and go through advanced tuning steps to make your bow as forgiving and as accurate as possible, check out our Ultimate Bow Build Masterclass online course. We've got that linked in the description below. But this bow right here, I guess we didn't even weigh it yet. Let me draw back and see what it is. Okay, it's coming in at 73 pounds is what it says. So I was gonna say I'll probably crank that back up just a little bit. I'm hoping for around 75 pounds. I just took 2 twists off of each limb off the top and bottom on these 80-pound limbs. So I'll turn it up just a little bit, get it closer to that 75, 76. And the draw length is right at the 29 inches on the mods. I've got 80% let off and running the same black gold pure 75 5-pin sight, 10-inch stabilizer in the front, 10-inch in the back. I'll experiment more with weight and length and stuff like that as we go. QAD, integrate, MX2 arrow rest, and 3/16 peep sight, and 6-arrow Hoyt quiver. So this ultimately will be my setup. Hopefully I get the opportunity to send an arrow through an elk this fall, this September, with Micah by my side, and maybe I'll take it out after some mule deer and antelope and everything else. So really excited about this setup. Hope you guys enjoyed watching, and we'll see you on the next one.